I tell you what, though, when we're talking about the Labor Party and buckling to pressure, good old Anthony Albanese faced a little bit today, but he pretended none of it existed, because it turns out in his electorate of Grayndler, which I used to live in, by the way, I was redistributed into Sydney, so I now have to deal with voting for Tanya Plibersek or not. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. I could have cast a vote against the Prime Minister, but never mind. But on his how to vote card, he has put, or the Labor Party at that anyway, has put the Greens second. And this particular candidate, Hannah Thomas, has carried on about how, you know, Israel's conducting genocide, etc. And she's even said that if you vote with the Greens, you are voting with Palestine. I mean, you know, she couldn't make it any clearer that she's essentially a one-issue candidate who's saying if you vote in Australia for an Australian party, you're somehow voting overseas. We know what her jig is. Well, the Australian pointed out today that despite Albo carrying on about how we won't do any deals with the Greens, of course, if they end up in minority after the election, he's put the Greens second in his own electorate. So he was asked about this at his presser this morning, and he claimed that he didn't even know the name of the candidate.
I wouldn't have been able to tell you if you'd have asked me who the candidate was. Last time out in this seat, I won on primaries. That's the way the system works. I got more than 50% of the vote. I look forward to people voting number one for me and then filling in all the numbers just as they do to make sure it's a formal vote. And I don't intend to promote the name or the candidate of the Greens Party candidate.
You don't know the names of the candidates that you're up against? I mean, could you make it any clearer that you take the electors of Grayndler for granted by saying, well, last time I won by 50% of the primary vote anyway, so it doesn't bloody matter. I mean, I'm just standing here because, well, I clipped the ticket and I get to take the money and hopefully I'll be PM again come May 3. He doesn't care about the people of his electorate because he hasn't even looked at the ballot paper to see who he is running against. And he then bizarrely had a crack at the Australian for pointing out that the Labor Party had preferenced the Greens second in Grayndler, saying, I can't believe that the Australian is giving so much promotion to the Greens candidate. I mean, please, mate, what does he take us? Well, clearly he does take us for mugs if A, he expects us to believe that he doesn't know the name of the opposition in his electorate. And, you know, clearly he is backing in a candidate that is a one-issue candidate. I mean, she's made it very clear. Also, she moved here as a foreign student and claims that she lives on unceded land. So, I mean, I don't know. Go back to where you came from, love. You didn't have to come and sit on someone else's land that you think doesn't belong to you, was stolen from them. But he's backing a one-issue candidate, which is on Palestine, and we'll have some more on that in tomorrow's Oz a little bit later as well, because it turns out her relationship with Anthony Albanese is a little bit frosty, which makes it even weirder that he's backing her in here. But imagine trying to say, don't even know her name.
There's only two options here, right? Either the Prime Minister is lying or he has no clue at all what's going on, which is pretty much the way he's run the country for the past 3 years. His claim that, well, I get voted in on primary votes anyway, I don't need preferences, begs the question, so if you don't need preferences, why put the Greens number 2, especially when you made such a big deal at the debate just the other night about the fact that you would not do any deals with the Greens, and he could always at the last minute change his how to vote card and amend it if it's an honest mistake. This just goes to show what most Australians believe about the Prime Minister, that he's duplicitous.
No, I honestly don't think he's lying. He is safe as houses. Grayndler has been a Labor seat since 1946. The guy doesn't need to know their names. I find it strange that you then extrapolate that with him just, he doesn't give a stuff about people in his constituency. No, if my seat was that safe as houses, the names of my opponents are entirely inconsequential. And of course he's going to put the Greens second, because when you look at everybody else running in his seat, it is absolutely out of the question. He's got a One Nation candidate, he's got a Trumpets of Patriots candidate, he's got an independent, and then he's got the Libs. So naturally, he's going to choose his closest bedfellow, which is the Greens, which again poses no problem because she's never gonna get up in his seat, which he holds by a whopping 17.3%.
Except, Liz, that while he's got policy differences with Trumpet of the Patriots and One Nation, he stood in Parliament and he's accused the Greens of stoking social division. He's had the most serious charges to make against the Greens. So to put them second in his electorate, and I don't buy the idea that...
He knows he has more in common with them than any of the above.
But he's accused them of creating social division, which is a very serious accusation, far more than we disagree on tax policy or we've got different ideas about the housing crisis.
Well, and I think it brings up the point that he keeps saying we will under no circumstances do a deal with the Greens. But if the how to the vote card has the Greens second, I mean, what you are saying is that if I don't get the electorate, I would prefer the Greens to be the next mob to get the electorate.
But he knows that he is.
But it doesn't...
It's a statement that it makes,
It doesn't matter.
OK, I do think we're just making a storm and a teacup here.
I think it was either 2010 or 2013 that there was a serious threat of the Greens taking Grayndler, and the Daily Telegraph had on the front page, "Save our Albo," because it was a serious thing. So it's not out of the question that one day someone could come and take a seat like that. I mean, it's an inner city lefty seat. It's the kind of place where the Greens would eventually like to try to take it, I would think. But if he's saying, I'd never do a deal with this mob, and they're number 2 on your how to vote card, I mean, you're not really making it... you're giving up the game as to who you would prefer to be in power if you weren't in power.
And you can't tell me you wouldn't pay attention, even if you were going to win by a landslide, that you wouldn't pay attention to your opponent.
You ought to.
I genuinely wouldn't. If you had that big a margin and he's got other things to take up his brain space as PM, don't we know that?